You are now listening to CTR Media Network.
What up, family? CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are, the media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above all, never lasting. Motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions.
This is Alethea Tucker, I should say Dr. Alethea Tucker, and she is leveling up the podcast on CTR Media Network.
That's me. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks to her, my podcast is doing great.
350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence, all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network, start the show. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network. CTR is who we are. The media network, that's the best by far, you know. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network.
The Vera and Tommy Show. 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 Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello. I am so excited today. I am with my guest. His name is Richard Blank. He is the CEO of Costa Rica's call center. And I am just so excited to have him here. But before I pull him up, what I'm going to do is share a video that he sent me that will tell you a little bit more about him. So let's show
Fortune
that.
favors the brave. And I believe if you leave your castle, you'll definitely be able to slay dragons and save princesses. Have the sense of adventure in you. Realize that where you come from may or may not have any sort of influence of where you're going. I would definitely suggest learning the language at least in a simple way if you can. I think you need to give yourself some time away from your phone, away from friends and family, just to take a walk. Because sometimes when you ask yourself questions, you'll get different answers. When you're at a different state of mind. Because when there's anxiety, under pressure, if you're desperate, you make certain decisions. Now, the decision I made coming here at 27 was on a whim, but it was built up after so many years of momentum and training for this, where this one in a million opportunity almost felt like destiny. So if it feels like a forced fit, ask again. If it's a woo way where there's no resistance, you are moving towards this naturally and the stars are aligned for you, then Wendy, I would say is go and I'll be your biggest support for you and what you're doing. And I won't be a naysayer, I won't be a believer. I'll ask you questions and be a friend, and we'll talk about it. But if you're passionate about something, and it's really going to make you happy, and you're going to feed families and do a good thing in this world, then by all means, go for it and take your chance.
Yes, and let me pull him up. How are you today,
I'm
Richard?
doing great, Vera. Thank you so much for having me
Well,
on your show.
I am so excited, and what I'm going to do is share a little bit about you, and then we're going to take it from there. Mr.
Absolutely.
Richard Blank holds a bachelor's degree in communications and Spanish from the University of Arizona and a certificate of language proficiency from the University of Sevilla, Spain. A keynote speaker for Philadelphia's Abington High School 68th National Honor Society induction ceremony. Giving back to Abington Senior High School is very important to Mr. Blank. As such, he endows a scholarship each year for students that plan on majoring in a world language at the university level. Richard's journey in the call center space is filled with twists and turns. When he was 27 years old, he relocated to Costa Rica to train employees for one of the larger call centers in San Jose. With a mix of motivational speaking style backed by tactful and appropriate rhetoric, Richard shared his knowledge and trained over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers. Richard Blank has the largest collection of restored American pinball machines and antique Ricola jukeboxes in Central America, making gamification a strong part of CCC culture. Richard Blank is the Chief Executive Officer for Costa Rica's call center since 2008. Now, I am going to stop there because there's a lot more I could say, but I am going to give you the floor and let you share a little more about Richard with our audience. And as you do that, I will pull up your information so people will know how to get in touch with you. So let me give you the floor.
Thank you, Vera. The most important thing is that maybe we can shatter some misconceptions in regards to what call centers do, or even a CEO. I'm a CEO that loves empathy. Knowing somebody's name is so important for me, breaking bread. And Vera, you mentioned it earlier, I got a huge pinball and Pac-Man collection. So I love to hang out with my agents in the game room to let off steam, recharge batteries, and bond that much more. I've been in Costa Rica for 23 years. Married the girl of my dreams and started a company. So my good friend, I am living a dream. I got past my parents' guilt. I doubled down on my favorite language in high school and college, which was Spanish. And all it did was open doors and give me so much positive reinforcement, where it's just given me such a beautiful life, Aaron. I'm so happy to share that with you and your audience today.
That is amazing. And I'm happy that you're here to share. You said you got past your parents' guilt. Can you expound upon that and tell me more about what you mean by that?
Well, the most important thing is when you have leverage as an owner of a company, you could hire, fire, or make or break somebody. And when I first came to Costa Rica, I was very fortunate to work at my friend's call center for 4 years. Now, this was not C-level there. I was starting off with the proletariat. I was in the cubicle like everybody else, but I gravitated towards it. I saw people that were engaged and were artists of speech, such intense concentrations for short periods of time in English. I thought it was fantastic. But I also heard the gripes, the good and the bad and the happy and the sad. And the biggest complaint people had is that they were not extended any sort of dignity, and they felt like a number. And so there will always be a company with more technology and somebody with more advanced math skills than me. But this is what I do know. If you know somebody's name and you really invest in somebody and you make them an asset and not expendable, you find ways to delegate to promote them. You take this sort of delicate stage of their career and you add wind to their sails. So Vera, they become more self-reliant and self-confident. And by doing so, I'm able to expand my roots and my branches so my tree can grow. And so I can't do this alone. And I needed to build a team around me in order to grow. And so I would hate to bring in a hot shot that could be a cancer or a jumper and just ruin the synergy of the center. Vera, I love bringing in people that have skills, because as someone that's bilingual, they bear the mark of higher education. But if they're like a squire to a knight with no bad habits and we can mold them, could you imagine what we can do with these individuals? And so for me, I like dessert first, and I like to play recess at the call center. I like to expand on their soft skills and their English skills to give them more diplomacy and really work on their vocabulary so they can express themselves better. And by doing so, you give them stimulation that's more than just earning a paycheck. They're really growing here with me, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
That's awesome. And you talked about, that brings us to the topic of our show.
Oh, yeah.
Happy tone, happy
Tone.
lives.
Mhm.
So let's kind of talk about happy tones, happy life. It's not so much what we say, but how we say it that can make all the difference in the world. And I know that you're a communications major, and so effective communications is really a part of what you do, as well as public speaking and just a whole number of things. An international entrepreneur and
Oh,
just
yeah.
all this that you're doing. That is just absolutely wonderful. So let's talk about this. How do you interact with an employee who may, in fact, have some kind of attitude during and in the workplace? Because I know, of course, we want to have the perfect employee, but there are times when people bring their baggage into the workplace, and that can oftentimes impact on the workplace. So can you give me an example of a time when you had to build on and take your resources in effective communications to deal with an employee that may have came in that morning on the wrong side of the bed, had gotten up on the wrong side of the bed? And we're sharing this because I want our audience to recognize that these are some tools that you can, in fact, use when dealing with what may be a difficult person or someone that is not working at 100%. So what would you say to even a coworker or an employer who may experience that with one of their workers?
Let's use 3 scenarios: brand new agent, budding person, and someone that's been with me for a decade. The individual that comes in for the first day, I like to put fear into perspective. Learning a second language is 10 times harder than what I'm going to put you on. And if you're not breaking the law, why are you afraid of a police officer? And if you're not cheating on a test, why are you afraid of a teacher? And if you're coming to work on time, pen at the ready, and coachable, why would you be afraid of me? You can't judge me on what happened at your last job, as I'm not going to judge you on the kid that just didn't come to work or make his phone calls. I believe in clean slates. And so I might be able to start off initially with somebody like that, and also ask them a very good rhetorical question. How many bosses have you ever met and worked with you before? It's only about 10%. So most of the people have never really met their boss, and they work with me. They don't work for me. This is not 1984. And so maybe by establishing certain parameters and boundaries, and I am their boss, and I am paying for things, and I have contracts here, but I'm also a man, and I can relate with individuals. Don't take my kindness for a weakness. It's just empathy, but it's not sympathy. And so I want to start strong with these individuals. So prevention is better than a cure. And I might be able to readjust an apprehensive, a nervous tone into somebody that, instead of just absorbing, Vera, they start contributing. And then maybe you can start seeing an individual that starts opening up a little bit. And so I believe in steps. If I can show good faith by discussing their grammar and vocabulary, because I am a native speaker, they will see that I'm investing in their education. And then if I do listen to their phone calls here at a call center, we have a quality control department. I'm not just going to call you champ. I know you're the champ, Vera, but first, your name's Vera. And secondly, I'm not just going to say good job. I'm going to say, listen, I heard that call 3 days ago, and what you said to Mrs. Jones was fantastic. You saved the client, you got an upsell, and you got a referral out of it. You were perfect. And I love how you name dropped her 6 times and used the military alphabet at the end. So then you'd be like, wow, the boss really did listen to me. Of course I did, Vera. you work with me. So that's a brand new agent. So there's a lot of prevention instead of a cure to readjust the bad mood tone. No. We don't do that here. We have a certain environment. So then we have somebody that's budding and growing with me, and I've given some responsibilities, but they do come in with, as you say, a bad day. Well, we know them enough after 6 months to a year or a couple of years that this is out of character. So I always give someone benefit of the doubt. I got to follow labor laws, but I'm also willing to wiggle a little bit, just to make sure you put some water on your face or take a 5-minute break and play pinball with me to relax. But what I love to do is use the luxury of a track record. You can't tell me you're doing 4 today when you did 44 the other day. And so it's great where you yourself can see your own performance. So self-improvement is self-analysis. So I'm really using your own work against you. And so that's the kind of thing where you'd be able to become humble, slow down, calm down, and grow from there. That's a readjustment of a tone. And then if there's somebody that's been with me for a decade and they're just out of control that day, I'll pull you privately because you praise publicly and you critique privately.
Absolutely.
And I will call the balls and the strikes. I'll say, listen, this is completely out of character for you. It's not funny or cute. I'm not angry, but I'm disappointed in you. And I say it as it is. And if we can get through that sort of chaos together and have that sort of foundation, then we'll have the greatest relationship ever because we're very forthright. And so that's how I readjust tones. I do things at the moment, but if it's really at the moment and there's heightened anxiety for any sort of relationship, I like to listen twice as much as I think. I like to clarify things for my edification so I'm not miscommunicating. And my dear friend Vera, if I have the luxury of time, I'll write a draft and not send it. I will sleep on it, take a walk on it, hit the gym, wash the car, play pinball on it. And then the following day, most likely, Vera, I will apologize for overextending myself. Maybe my tone was not appropriate. And you deserve better than that. My friendship is so important with you that I can cut away the fat, notice the priorities, and we can start again. We shouldn't ruin a Thanksgiving dinner or a marriage over something. We don't always need to win. And there's always times you can fall on a smaller sword in order to readjust that tone.
I love it. I love it because so oftentimes employers are so caught up with their bottom line without recognizing that their most valuable asset is their human resource. And so in order to understand your human resources, you've got to have empathy. You've got to allow them to be open enough and willing enough to, and comfortable enough to come to you and share and talk. So many employers are so consumed with, like I said, their bottom line and themselves that they take advantage and take their employees for granted. And so having that kind of communications that you're talking about and being able to, even so many times people do not want to accept that they may have to apologize, especially the employer. A lot of times they don't feel that they need to do that. And so for you to have that kind of heart and that kind of spirit towards your employees is phenomenal.
Well, let's also be realistic, Vera. There's 2 types of attrition that we have here. We have natural and forced attrition. Natural attrition, for an example, Amazon works here, HP, Intel, and Oracle. So there's leverage. It's a seller's market. The agents can really get hired tomorrow if they want. So people will leave me for a scheduling conflict for the university. Maybe a good friend or a partner works there, so they'd rather be with them. Could be closer to their home, and also they might have skills where it's more lucrative. But I tell you what, Vera, there's never any real forced attrition here. I mean, if someone's not coming to work and making their calls by labor law, by default, they're going to get fired. But I will never give you the walk of shame or make you cry, deface you on the floor in front of everybody. What? To pad my ego? That actually makes me look worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, oh my God, how many employers do that? Call their employee. And even I work with teachers and parents as well. And to see teachers calling a student on the carpet in front of everybody else, it's not right, and it demeans, it's demeaning, and it really makes a person feel bad. So as an employee, getting that kind of response from an employer, that's not going to help the situation
Well,
in any.
let's look at it case by case. When you put people's grades on, that's embarrassing if people have failed. But for an example, if you have a certain sports team and everyone is putting on the wall how many foul shots they make and what their percentages is, that's great. There's a comparison there. And so we have metrics. Someone should be making 100 calls a day. And so if we have the board up and me and you are making 110, everyone else is doing 80, Vera and I are crushing it.
Right. That's
So
a different story, though.
it's not me. It's your peers. You need to earn the respect of your peers by showing up on time, doing your job, and not being the weak link of the chain. I'm not going to hit the ball and drag Johnny. So what you're asking is really more of a reinforcement from the group, from their peers. And if I can get them to have that sort of respect and that sort of mutual commitment, I've done my job. And then it also gives a chance for you and I to see who the future leaders are by not kissing butt, backstabbing, or doing some sort of conniving things, but by mastering levels. If you are perfect in regards to attendance, your phone calls, coaching, wrap up, the notes, military alphabet, you should be training people. I mean, imitation is the best form of flattery.
Yes.
And merit is
Yeah.
how you should be promoted, not because you're
Yeah.
coming into my office buying me coffee. I
Yeah.
don't want that. In fact, I'm against those things.
That's phenomenal. That is great. And it's so important to understand that as a leader, you have to actually, the leader sets the tone. The leader sets the tone of the environment of the company. And so if you're coming across open, honest, and receptive to people talking with you, then it's going to make for a more conducive and a better environment for everybody. And so oftentimes employers don't recognize and understand that they're setting the tone, and then they wonder why their employees are a certain way. I remember going into a company, and I mean, when you walked in, you could feel the toxicity in the air. You could feel it in the air. But then when I looked at the owners and their persona and how they were towards their employees, then I understood. But the thing was getting them to understand you're complaining about your staff and your people when we need to look at ourselves and how we are projecting to them. And so as an employee and as an employer, understanding that you're setting the tone. And I don't know if many recognize that. I don't know. You would think they would, but.
Well, people have suggestion boxes, and imagine if you never met me after working with me for 4 years and I say, Vera, why don't you come to my office for a meeting? You'll be scared to death. And you haven't tested things earlier before seeing if there's repercussion or how open I am. So as I say, some people move with me a little bit quicker in regards to relationship building, but the ones that are quiet and reserved and very introverted, I still want to say hello to them. And I hope they say hello to me. And I'll tell you what, you're really not supposed to touch people, maybe handshakes and stuff like that, but I've received upper shoulder and arm taps on myself when I'm playing pinball in the morning. People say, good morning, Jefe. And so for me, I do find that appropriate. And I think it's a form of affection in a very nice way where they're comfortable with me. And maybe if it's not that individual, but there's 2 or 3 people in the group that have gotten to certain relationships with me or comfort levels, they are allowed to speak for somebody or with somebody. So try to use all mediums and all connections, and especially if somebody speaks differently than you do with the people. If you try to be out of character, you're going to get caught and you won't be authentic. But then again, you don't have these sort of expectations for them to understand your pressures of payroll, contracts, and carrying that weight. But I do believe that there is that sort of mutual commitment and fidelity towards a company.
Yes.
And if you could raise glasses that way or have that sort of respect towards one another, that goes a long way.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. When I think about the jobs that I've had where I was most productive, it was when people were recognizing what I was bringing to the table and acknowledgement, and also understanding people receive praise in different ways, and people adjust to and respond to and relate to performance in different ways, depending on how they are interacting with their employer. So yes, so that's very important to understand where your people are, and the touching. You talked about the touching. Anymore, the least little thing can be considered misconstrued, but sometimes a little pat on the shoulder saying you're doing a good job can go a long way, can really help an employee understand, oh, I'm appreciated, I'm understood. And you know what, I need to take a break and do a commercial right quick, so we will be right back.
Reality today with Ms. Mac Marketing. 848-236-5026.
Ms. Mac Marketing. If you're interested in having more visibility, getting your name and what you do out there, you want to contact Ms. Mac Marketing at 848-236-5026. And let me also say to you, please like, share, and comment, and please subscribe to the Vera Thomas Show. We need your help and your support. And speaking of support, I need your support also to help by donating to my show, to make it better, to improve what it is that I'm doing. You can do so through Cash App, $InStillGreat, PayPal or Zelle, Vera Thomas Show 1117@gmail.com. Your support is appreciated. Your support is needed. So thank you very much, and I appreciate that. All right, back to my guests. Okay. So, Richard, there's so much to you. There's so many sides of you and so many things that you have done. And as I look at your bio again, one of the other things I wanted to talk to you about, because we had talked about telemarketing strategies, conflict management, which we kind of touched a little bit on just a few minutes ago, interpersonal soft skills, and those kinds of things. But before we get into that, tell me about your gamification. Tell me about that.
Well, I'm a Generation X, so I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I don't know about you, but I was always jealous of Ricky Schroeder's Silver Spoons arcade, so I always wanted one. And one man's trash is another man's
treasure. Yes.
And in Costa Rica, a lot of these jukeboxes and pinball machines are sitting in bodegas for years. And so for a couple $100, I'll dust them off, drive a couple hours, grab them, bring them back, and you'll order some parts in the States and a couple electricians work on it. Next thing you know, you got a row of some beauties. And so it's the restoration, it's the craftsmanship, the marquees, the artwork, the bumpers, the sound. So restoring the jukeboxes and the arcade machines and the air hockey table, it's fascinating. And so a lot of these machines are older than the agents. Gamification is a wonderful thing to have in a company culture. It just doesn't have to be a PlayStation. They do that at home. Try to get things they haven't played before. And so what I did was I took it to the extreme. And so uh, I'm fortunate to have the room, and I just continue to build that collection. My oldest pinball machine is a 1976 Bally's Freedom,
Oh
and the
my
newest one
goodness.
you can laugh is a 1997 Fast Break. And so I'm really about a 2 decade sort of pinball collector. I like the classics,
Oh
and
my goodness. And you have them in your place of work so that your employees can take advantage, relax, have fun.
Mhm.
That
Half and
is
half. I got half the machines here, and then I got half of them at my home in my own man cave where I have my gym and everything. And so, as I say, I'm very fortunate. I'm fortunate to be able to afford them, and I know what my tastes are. I'm comfortable enough in my own taste to know what I like.
that is
And
wonderful.
I
That's
love
awesome.
these old retro games. So it's so much fun.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. And I know now, let's talk a little bit more about, we talked about interpersonal skills and
Mhm.
interpersonal relationships in the workforce, but let's
Sure.
kind of talk about it from another perspective
Okay.
within the home,
Mm.
let's talk about that a little bit. And also let me say, I want to say hi to your mother because I know she's watching. And
Mama says hi.
I had a wonderful conversation with her earlier this week, and you have a great son. Let me say that, and
You're great, Vera.
thank you
See,
for
our
taking
audience
the
doesn't
time.
know the due diligence you do prior to your shows, but you and I communicated at least a half a dozen times. We were on long conversations, really getting a chance to know each other. And I was at the time visiting my mother in Arizona for my yearly trip, and you had
Yeah,
called. So past the phone, Vera's meeting my mom, and it's just great. I mean, and why not? I'm so proud of my mom. I'm proud of you. We might as well meet
thank
one another.
you.
And there's nothing
Yes.
better than introducing someone to their mother. I thought I
I
got paid.
agree. I agree. And I lost my mom when she was 43 years old. So especially when I see men embracing their mothers, I think about my son because my son embraces me as well. And it's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. I know your mother is so very proud of you, and she is so proud of you. And that is
You know
just
she's
so
watching tonight
wonderful.
too. And all
Yes,
her friends.
yes.
Well done, Vera. Shout out to Janie. I love it.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So we again
You're
the
talking about family, the most
yeah,
delicate and sensitive of
yes.
subjects. How about this? I love family tradition, and I almost hold what my great grandparents and grandparents say is almost gospel. And there's such a chivalrous attitude I have towards my family where that comes first. Every family is different, and there's always situations in families, but for my own, I love my family unconditionally. I can't give 1,000 chances. I always believe that people need to leave something on the table and have mutual respect, but there should never be a deal breaker. You should try everything you possibly can to make things better, to have more understanding, maybe to assist, guide, lend a hand in your thoughts. But I also believe cooling off periods are exceptionally important. People need to take a break, a walk. I always thought that writing letters, not typing, the actual handwriting, you put something on paper, that's a little bit deeper. And maybe you might have someone's undivided attention. Maybe they'll read it multiple times. Maybe when you're speaking to it, they'll misinterpret your tone, but when they're reading it, that could be just in a neutral area where just the words are coming off the paper. You could use that thesaurus and constantly power up your words and adjust them to avoid rabbit holes. Don't do low blows. Don't bring up stuff in the past. Stuff like that's not necessary. I know I broke a
Thank
window
you.
when I was 8 years old. You don't need to bring it up again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. One of the things people don't understand when in communications and you're bringing up what happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20
Come
years
on now.
ago.
Come on now. I had hair
It's
then. I mean, it's not that. Hey Vera, we all shed skins.
Yes, and we do. When we know better, we do better. And it doesn't,
Yes.
and it's the same even with parents throwing back in a child's face what they did yesterday. And like I love when you said every day is a new day, a clean slate. because it is a new day, a clean slate. And that's how we need to be in our relationships. That's how we need to be in our workplaces. That's how we need to be with our children as parents. So very much true. And that's one of my pet peeves, having people throw back in your face what you did in the
But that's
past.
okay. I'm accountable to that. Maybe when I broke a window at 8 years old, I could have been on a bad path and took the easy way out and did drugs and failed out of school and got in fist fights and not go to college. But I took the hard way. I wanted to be a good kid. I was just not mischievous. I was just curious. I was a normal kid growing up.
Yes.
I wasn't an angel, but I wasn't a devil. But for those that knew me growing up and when they said, I remember you were this kind of child or that kind of child. Well, sure, in that period of time in 1978, but this is different now. But I am accountable, and I'll wear my past with pride, and I'll own up to it.
Yes,
and if
but you don't.
error, it only makes you better.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, but to just constantly be reminded of things in the past, first of all, you can't move forward looking back. Bring
them on. I'll take them all. If that's really what you want to talk about, and then I'll say, are you finished? And so, for me with that kind of stuff, that's okay, because individuals are getting it out. And I think you might be able to uncover certain underlying themes. Or once again, someone could be carrying something for years and they don't even know about it. And so I'm okay with these sort of moments. Think about it like this, dear Vera. If someone is not communicating with you, we have some serious problems. If somebody is twisting knives and taking shots at you, that's just low. You don't do things like that. But if someone is expressing through crying, through shouting, through eyes closing and pacing, but they're getting it out, and they're getting it out, and so certain words might not be the most diplomatic at the moment, but that's okay, because that their intentions are honorable, and they're doing things with good faith, and they just don't have that muscle memory. They haven't practiced that sort of speech. And if they did practice it 1,000 times, now that the lights are there and they're speaking, they freeze up. And so it's good to breathe. It's good to physiologically slow down and calm down.
Yes.
And bring back speeds.
Yeah.
And turn take. If possible.
If possible. Sometimes, though, there are people that intentionally do these kinds of things because they know that it's hurtful. And it's unfortunate that we have people like that, but it does happen. And
maturity. That's not being very mature to somebody.
No, it's not. It's not. But it happens. It happens.
Adults. And it's kind of funny when you see children together, and let's just say like I think what was the movie Billy Madison, where Adam Sandler goes back in school and one of the kids on his field trip by accident wet his pants. Okay. As children, that's a death sentence. You're going to be teased for the next 20 years. But as an adult, such empathy is extended. Women and men will be willing to immediately offer clothes, not have any sort of embarrassment, talk about it, relate to it. We've all had it done. Is embarrassing at 8 years old, but you're almost proud to admit it at 50, saying it happened to me too. I got your back, let's have it happen. So it's maturity.
Yes.
It's maturity. And if you could think like an adult and have that sort of stuff, you'll be a winner. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And remembering that you can't move forward looking back. So you have to keep looking forward and keep moving forward and keep thinking to be the best version of yourself. I'm going to do another commercial and we will be right back.
All right.
My question is, have you considered, and this is regarding this commercial that I just played, have you considered what are your options when our government digitizes our money? When we understand that the dollar is only worth 3 cents right now, what are we going to do? Well, if you have questions or concerns, or you want to know some options that are available to you, check out www.soundmoneybenefits.com. Again, www.soundmoneybenefits.com. All right. All right. That's one down. Now, all right. So, Richard, you have such a wealth of information that you're bringing to the table and that you're sharing, and this wisdom. I think, what's coming to my mind is that scripture: "If any man lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth liberally and upbraideth not." And so you're bringing wisdom to us tonight, giving us some pointers and some tools that people can use in the workplace as well as family. You talked about how important family is, and it is important. And we have such divisiveness in our country right now that we need to really look at what can we do to change the trajectory of what we see today. And I know that's taken us to a whole nother level. We're talking about society now. But I want to ask you, what are some things, what can we do as a people to change what's going on, all the hate and all the dissension and all the bitterness and all this negativity that we're seeing out here? And I realize each of us must accept responsibility and determine what it is that we can do to make a difference. Each of us, it's incumbent upon each of us to decide what is it that I can do to make a difference in my life and also in the lives of others. So I'd like for you to kind of touch on some of that.
I always believe if you're not capable of loving yourself, how could you extend love to others?
Absolutely.
The world will get better when people can look at themselves in the mirror. They're capable of making their bed in the morning. And I always believe in physiological, they should eat better, rest, and have certain routines. That's not easy to do, but that's what I do. And if you feel good, you might think better, and you're not going to be grumpy. Your stomach's not going to hurt. You're not going to be tired. And a lot of the times people's reactions to their thought process is because they're hungry, they're tired, they're sleepy. It's 1,000 things going on in there. But if you can find your balance and your center, then you might be more open-minded. And so I just see a lot of people that don't have their own acts together. So making suggestions on my home when your home is a mess, it's a little rich, but
Yes,
I'm willing to
yes.
listen. I mean, maybe your slop is okay. And some people like to live a certain lifestyle. But then there's also self-respect. You need to show up on time. You need to present yourself in a certain way where people at least will take the time to listen to you. Shouting arguments, cursing is appropriate at certain times, but in my opinion, I think it should be applicable for all audiences. And if we're being recorded, you should be able to play it in the car with children.
Amen. Amen. I agree wholeheartedly.
But Vera, some people do react naturally, and you can't always hold your hands over children's ears. And to let them know that some people do express themselves that way, and to not take it personal, it's just a bark more than a bite.
But it's become such a norm. Cursing has become such a norm.
But what are we going to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to not have any sort of relationships in public with people?
Well, you can't do that, but I mean, you can't do that. You can't do that. You have to, accept people where they are.
Well, we readjust the tone. You curse at me, I answer back properly.
Exactly.
You curse again, and I say, thank you very much. I understand your position, Vera. And you did say 1, 2, 3, and let me allow myself to fix this for you. And
exactly. And you made another point. We can't expect anything to change out here until we change what's in here. If you don't love yourself, and I've talked about this time and time again, if you don't love yourself, how can you love anybody else? In fact, scripture says, love thy neighbor as thyself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. So understanding who you are and whose you are can help you to better understand how to interact and relate to other people. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You know,
Vera, I get 50% thank yous when I open doors for people. A lot of times people are like, thank you very much. A lot of times they just walk through and I'm like, okay, where's my $5?
Yes. Even in driving, and somebody lets you over in a lane, I'm thanking them because they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that. There's so many other people that didn't do it. And so why not thank the person that let you in? Why not be thankful and share that with other people? Be thankful, even for little things. I can get on a bandwagon.
But you should always be looking to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Maybe giving the chair to somebody on the bus when your legs are strong. As I mentioned, opening doors, thank yous, and my favorite thing, I call it the extra pickles technique. Why extra pickles? I'll tell you. If I walk into a restaurant and someone's making a sandwich, I go, hey, Vera, how you doing today? By the way, your sandwiches are much better than Subway. You don't think I'm going to be getting more pickles? Of course I am. And it's great. And then I do a positive escalation, which means I say, hey, are you Vera's supervisor? She was the greatest ever. She did this. She did that. I'll do it in writing. I'll do it in voicemails. I love positive escalation.
Yes,
That's paying it forward and giving a gift.
Yes, positive escalation. I want
Positive
to challenge
escalation.
my listening audience to do that. Do that. Go outside of yourself and compliment somebody, share, and let somebody else know how you feel about their service to you. Yes. I love it. I love it.
On telemarketing calls, when someone answers the phone, I'll do a company name spike. I'll say the name of your company better than you do. And then when I'm getting transferred to the decision maker, I'm going to say, hey, Vera, I'm just going to let you know, when I speak to Mr. Jones, you were the greatest. And so when I get transferred, I use my anonymity by giving them a compliment of the individual that works with them. So a defense level goes from like a 10 to a 2. Next thing you know, we're buddies because Vera's the greatest, know, and we do it in writing as well. So when I call the company back, you go, Richard, I can't believe what you just said to my boss. By the way, his extension is this, his birthday is this, and this is how you're going to close the deal.
And that's how you get past the gatekeeper. That's exactly how you get past the gatekeeper.
You have my key. You just got to be nice to him. That's all you got to do.
Exactly. Yeah. People don't understand. I'm telling you, my grandmother used to say you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar, and so being able to understand that and like it's a mindset.
But let me share something else, my dear friend. I don't bat 1,000. I like to have romantic deaths. I like to jump clouds. So if we're making phone calls in the first 30 seconds, I can do a company name spike. Hey, the Vera Thomas Show. How you doing today? And I say, hey, Vera, how you doing, Vera? Richard Blank. Yeah, Costa Rica's call center. Everything's great. No, we're interested. Click. Hey, I said your name at least 3 times. I said the name of your company better than you did. I was in the greatest mood. I said my name and my name of company. And so that sort of first 30-second shot.
Yes.
These are beautiful romantic deaths. I did what I had to do. I didn't compromise ethics. I put my best foot forward. And it just so happens I didn't snap you out of your trance enough to buy me enough time to really present my case. And but that's the way to keep people in a positive forced march in case they're having tough days or finding ways to give themselves a positive reinforcement to continue. I don't need 15 rounds, but if you can do a good first round, if you can do a good 2 minutes, you may be able to buy the momentum to last you longer.
Yes, I love it. And I got to do another commercial.
Awesome.
I'll be right
Let's do it.
Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Tina J. Ramsey, and I want to share with you about CTR Media Network. Have you heard? CTR Media Network is a new standard of podcasting with over 30 plus podcasters. We reach 350 million global listeners worldwide in over 50 plus countries across all major podcasting and social media platforms. We have featured over 1,000 guests. What we specialize in is helping business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and fellow podcasters expand their visibility on our platform. We're all about positioning with visibility, connections, and teaching you how to monetize what you do. Let me tell you something. If you're a business owner, we have sponsorships opportunities. We have commercial slots. We also have opportunities for you to be a featured guest on any of our shows. So what are you waiting for? CTR Media Network is who we are, and this is where you need to be. So go to ctrmedianetwork.com and click our store feature so that you can see which opportunity fits your life and your budget so that we can get started working with you today.
CTR Media Network. I'm telling you, if you want to have a better podcast, if you want to start a podcast and you don't know where to start, you want to contact ctrmedianetwork.com. ctrmedianetwork.com. Yes. And also, I want to share a little bit about a young man that decided he wanted to sponsor me. And his name is Jamal Maya. He is a digital marketer and graphic designer, and he can help increase your YouTube visibility, SEO specialist. And I know, Richard, you helped me so much when I first met you about SEO and those meta things that I'm not that familiar with. But anyway, I do want to, and I'm also asking you to please lift Jamal up in prayer. He contacted me today and said that he lost his sister today. So please lift him up in prayer. And his name is Jamil Maya, and his WhatsApp is +880-172-907-143. You can also find him on LinkedIn. And again, this young man is one of my sponsors, and I'm most grateful for him. And I just wanted to give him his props tonight. All right, so now we can get back to our conversation. Okay. So we've got 8 minutes actually. And I want you, what do you want to talk about right at this point in time?
Just wanted to jump in for a second and to say I'm so sorry, Jamil, in regards to your beautiful sister, and God bless her, and my condolences. And I wish you the most success for your business. I'm so happy that you're supporting Vera as well. And even though I never met your sister, I'm sure that she was shining bright, and now she's an angel.
Yes. And having lost both my sisters, my heart really goes out to him. And he's a young man. He's got to be in his early 20s or mid 20s. So my prayers are with his family. All right. Now, on a positive note, listen, this has really been a pleasure having you on my show. You've given some great insights and wisdom, words of encouragement, and I appreciate that. And I want you to just kind of share with our audience some other points before we end the show tonight.
Absolutely.
And yes, so I'm going to give you the floor and just let you talk.
Appreciate that. When I was starting my business, well, first I learned it when I worked at my friend's call center for 4 years. So I learned the business inside and out. When I started very small. I was working out of my home, prospecting, receiving calls, but I was renting an individual station from a blended call center. It was like an internet cafe. So I was very conservative in the beginning, made sure to pay my taxes, the salaries, and I made my margin. And I was able to grow from there. And then I built out some space that I was renting. And then a couple of years ago, we just bought this building and built out 300 seats. And so don't rush, act your wage. I was capable of purchasing used equipment and used furniture, which was great for me. They were pretty much brand new out of the box, just really never used. And there's a lot of gray believers and naysayers are out there. And I also do firmly stand behind Fortune favors the brave. If you have a desire in life and you have those butterflies and something is calling you, by all means, I think you should drink life and go for it. Be responsible with your family. You have obligations. But if you're capable of dipping your toe into this water, testing it, and seeing if you could do, because, 80 hours to me is normal working, 40 hours is part time. So if you're capable, besides earning your living, putting in some hours a week and testing and seeing your versatility, then you could see where you could go with your career. If I never took these chances years ago, if I never doubled down on myself or was true to myself, I don't think I'd have the sort of happy life that I do today. And so it's not about how much money you make, because gold and jewels lose their luster. There's a certain time in life you want to pay it forward. And in my case, I feed families in Costa Rica. And by being a guest here in this very strict Catholic country, I do understand the culture. I did learn Spanish. I really engrossed myself here and got so much out of it. And so if anybody does decide to come visit this Central America paradise, it's beautiful. We're north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. We're the only democratic society in Central America. Vera, you're going to love this. There's no standing army. So they put all their money back into education. There's a 95% literacy rate here.
Oh, that's awesome.
Most neutral of English accents. They have ecotourism, medical tourism, and the best part, your buddy Richard's here. And I got 1,000 suggestions for you and your amazing audience.
That's amazing. Now, let me ask you, in terms of violence and crime and guns, what is that like in Costa Rica?
No, if I'm licking my thumb and counting $100 bills at 3 a.m, I'm going to get robbed. But it's a beautiful culture. Pura vida is their expression, which means pure life. And they're very family oriented. They're God fearing. They're old school. Now, is there crime? There's crime everywhere in the world. Depends on if you're looking for it, if you're asking for trouble. But for the most part, I believe that if you're a respectful guest in another country and you follow the laws and the rules and you're not loud and obnoxious and things like that, you should have a wonderful time. But I do see people here that let loose a little bit, and they should enjoy themselves, but they're also not acting the way they would at their own home. And so things in Philadelphia in the United States don't have that sort of importance here. And it's really more of your essence. You should be a person of the world, and you should be a leader that eats second. And you should be always willing to participate and to lend a hand. And by doing so, I've really, once again, have made so many good friends here. I met the girl of my dreams to build a company, Grace Bourbon. She's incredible. But there is no violence here, really. I mean, there's nonsense in certain areas, but for the most part, it's an extremely peaceful Central American country.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. Well, I'm telling you, you being on my show has been a pleasure. It's been an honor to have you here on my show tonight. And I appreciate all that you said. And I'm hoping, I want to end with, because you talked about following your dreams and following, if you have a passion, if there's something that's kind of grabbing you in your heart or your chest or your stomach, and you know this is what I should be doing, but you got all this other stuff going on, what I want to say to you, and we're going to end with me sharing this with each of you, and you've heard it before, but I feel like I want to say it again. Hold fast to your dreams, even if at times it seems it may not come true. Living your dreams will depend on you. The roads we take, the paths we choose are necessary to live our dreams through. There may be detours, winding roads, and wrong turns, all in which are lessons to be learned. As your journey unfolds, you'll realize your goals. What a beautiful story soon to be told. So, audience, hold fast to your dreams. And in order for your dreams to become a reality, you gotta take action. Things will happen. Persist and you will gain. Pursue your goals day by day. Your life will not be the same. Dream dreams without hesitation. Visualize them. See them every day. Feel the excitement, exaltation while you're on your way. And with that, I want to say thank you, Richard, for being here. Thank you, audience. And this will be played over and over and over again on several platforms and on as a podcast as well. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate my audience listening. I'm sorry that we didn't have a lot of interaction tonight. I was expecting that, but it's okay. It's all good. And so what I want to say to each of you again, have a good night. Have a great week. And thank you again for being here. And we will see you again next week.
The Vera and Thomas Show. 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 Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Thomas Show. Let's talk about it.